Welcome to In the Community with Tiffany K.
And we're back with In the Community. I'm Tiffany K. And today my guest is Mike with Warrior's Heart. So let's just dive right into it and tell us what the mission of Warrior's Heart is.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure when I get to talk about our program. And, you know, this is a great way to honor our veterans and first responders. A little bit about the program is we are located in Milford, Sparta. We're still trying to figure out where exactly in Virginia that is, but it's in central Virginia. If you drew a line between Fredericksburg and Richmond, we're kind of right in the middle.
Okay.
We have a 520-acre ranch, and it features a 42-day residential treatment program specifically for substance use disorder.
Oh, wow.
That's what we're looking as a primary diagnosis. Okay. We treat co-occurring, so that's to say substance use is the primary diagnosis, but a lot of our warriors are coming in with post-traumatic stress injury diagnosis as well, and we also treat mild to moderate TBI. That would be seen in the medical screening by our admissions team. They do a pretty robust admissions intake. So what we're not taking, and I know I'm already getting in it.
Oh, you're fine. Hey, dig on deep. Yeah. I'm ready.
But what we will not take, and I just like to make this clear, is we are not a behavioral health facility per se.
Okay.
We're not bringing in people who are, experiencing acute psychosis, acute suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation. People with schizoaffective disorder, things like that.
Okay.
But we do want to bring in people who are experiencing struggles with substance use disorder. I think I said we are a 42-day inpatient program. We do feature detox on site. We have 24-hour a day, 7-day a week medical staff, medical director, so we can oversee some detox as well. Again, what I want to also caveat this, we're not taking the severe detoxers. We do have some folks that do require a little bit higher level of care.
Of course.
And that would also be captured on our admissions assessment. We do treat exclusively the warrior class. And I want to put that up front because how we define the warrior class is active duty military veterans of the United States military and both active and former first responders. That could be law enforcement, fire, EMS, some of our emergency healthcare workers as well.
Right.
And then our federal law enforcement partners, all the 3-letter DHS, and FBI and folks like that. So it really is, you said the word niche. I mean, it is a niche community. And we love that we have, exclusively serve the warrior class. I think it makes a difference.
So what inspired this idea? Because as you said, it's a very niche community, as I said it as well. So this had to be inspired by something.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Warrior's Heart's been around for about 8 years.
Okay.
And it was founded by Josh Lannon, Lisa Lannon, and Tom Spooner. And it's funny if you get to hear Josh tell this story, kind of how this came to be. He was really successful in country western nightclubs in Las Vegas.
Oh wow!
With his father, and Lisa Lannon, a good friend of mine, was in law enforcement. So Josh always jokes that he was getting them drunk and she was locking them up.
How it should work,
Yeah, absolutely. But how it came to be, and I'm not sharing anything that Josh wouldn't share if he was here. This is all public. Josh was having his own struggle with addiction.
Okay.
Went and got help when he was given an ultimatum by Lisa. Got out of treatment, and realized, our first responders and military need a little bit of extra help. There's a lot of stigma surrounding treatment, and it's really hard to be in treatment with the general population. Not to say that there's a difference, but there is. I mean, we have to acknowledge that a little bit.
Right.
He went to a training where Tom Spooner, who is another just amazing human being, and Tom Spooner and some of his peers were hosting a training. It was a special operations experience.
Okay.
And Josh likes to be challenged. Anyone who knows Josh Lannon, he loves a good challenge. So he went. After this training, Tom gave a really heartfelt talk to the group concerning suicide, and he gave the 22 a day stat, and that really tugged at Josh's heartstrings. So Josh is an entrepreneur, he's a creator, he's a builder, and Lisa, they got together, partnered with Tom, and bam, Warrior's Heart was created, like a real world solution to a real problem. A lot of people say they want to do something. A lot of people ask, how can I get involved? How can I help? What can I do? What I love about Josh, Lisa, and Tom is they took that and then put it into action, and actually,
they followed through.
They created something. So, it's pretty neat story. Josh, I'm sure, tells it a lot better, but
I thought you told it great.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Well, that's such a cool story behind it. So now that we've kind of discovered how this was created, let's get into a little bit more of the programs. What are the therapies and treatments that are occurring and offered to those who are part of Warrior's Heart?
Yeah, that's another great question. So what another unique nuance about our program is, like I said, we're treating the substance use. So we have chemical dependency clinicians on site, but we also are treating what's underneath, because we know alcohol is the cover, and it gets all the attention because it's what we see.
Yep.
The substance is what we see. But underneath that is a lot of trauma, family of origin stuff, like some really heavy things. And so we also have dual diagnosis clinicians on site. So the chemical dependency dual diagnosis clinicians will get together. They'll staff these clients, and then they'll try to develop specific modalities to help. Okay. We do some EMDR. We do a lifeline, which is a pretty transformative event that takes place at the facility around negative core beliefs and events. And then we also have in the afternoons, on top of the one-on-one sessions, we feature what we call elective time.
Okay.
That really gives our warriors time to, customize their program. At Warrior's Heart, Virginia, we have wood shop, we have a metal shop, where they can go and build flags, kind of build things with their hands, get with the shop manager and create something. We also have cooking with chef. They can get in the kitchen and, mix it up with the culinary staff if that's something they want to do. And then some of our warriors have an opportunity. They want to prepare a meal for the staff and warriors. They can do that. Canine, our canine program in Bandera is pretty big. We have canine coming 2024. We're looking at how we can implement that. As you can imagine, that's a really big. That's a big project.
That's a big responsibility, too.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
So we got to work through that. And then, we want to bring some equine on site so, folks can work with the horses. But we have gym. We have a beautiful gym, a great partnership with Rogue Fitness. They co-brand our stuff. This is a whole body approach. So we want to make sure that they have what they need to get better.
It's kind of fun. So I've said this on the show before. I deal with my own mental health, anxiety, OCD issues.
We all do. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Right, we all have those issues. Yeah. But one of the things I did want to talk about, because all of these treatment plans and how they're very much specified to the client is amazing, especially with this specific niche. But also, I want you to talk a little bit about, because I know how important peer support is and how important family and friend support is, because without it, it's hard to bear it alone. Yeah. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, our mission statement is Warriors Healing Warriors.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I think Warriors Healing Warriors speaks to exactly to what you just said. Yes. That peer-to-peer contact, that peer-to-peer support. It matters, particularly with this population where a lot of stigma exists.
Yep.
I know I was in law enforcement for almost 20 years at San Antonio PD. I'm also a veteran of the United States Air Force.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. And what I saw was, there was a lot of unknowns. And so more often than not, what I did when I needed support, when my peers needed support, is we turned to each other. It wasn't always, the professionals. Sometimes it was like we had to do the pre-work with our friends and process and talk. Right. And there's no place to destigmatize these conversations like in a peer circle. I believe at Warriors Heart, it's the secret sauce is our staff have served. Some of our staff are in recovery.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, when you're standing across from someone and, they're having a bad day, they don't want to engage in programming, and they give you the reason, and then the staff member says, I understand, they can, in the most literal sense of the word, understand because they've been there and they know, and they're working the program, they're working the steps, they're doing the work. I always tell everybody, like, do the work.
Yeah.
This is not a a one-time thing. This will be a lifelong thing. Our program is not the end of something. It's the beginning of recovery, and you'll be in recovery for the rest of your life. I think we all are to a certain extent, but peer-to-peer support is really important. It's key to the healing process, and it's what I believe our warriors in programming value the most, is being surrounded by men and women who understand what they're going through.
And it's exactly that key word, understand.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against anyone who is a professional, but if you haven't been in that situation, it's hard to say.
Oh, yeah.
I understand. You can say, I hear you, but that's a whole different situation.
Yeah, but to have walked through those experiences, and look, these jobs, they're incredibly traumatic. Like, I don't know another word to say, and the word trauma is so overused, but it's what it is. You're rolling up in law enforcement in particular. I know our combat vets have, oh my gosh, some incredible stories, but in law enforcement, I mean, you're eating lunch one minute and you're at a multi-casualty incident the next. And this is like day in, day out, day after day, year after year. Yep. Our brains just, they're not built and designed to be able to process this in a healthy way.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's, I just always like to, I see you is what I like to tell all our responders and veterans. I know, I get it. I remember having my own struggles, and I was, oh my gosh, a total rager, and, it was like blame. It's everybody's fault. And and my wife and I talk about it now and go, man, I was struggling, and I had no idea. I was going to work. I was working long days. I was working extra shifts. I was doing anything that I could to avoid having to deal with problems I created at home, with my family. And, being at work was like my safe place.
Yep.
So anyway, that's a whole nother conversation, how all that came about for me. But it's hard to be in these professions, especially right now where the stakes are so high.
And I think that's important to point out, though, because then that's just talking about, okay, what's the first step to get into this? And that could be Warrior's Heart, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
I think the first step is even picking up the phone and acknowledging, like, hey, what's going on here? I had somebody come into my office the other day, and he said, being an addict is like being a person who eats onion. You get used to it, and you don't notice your own smell, but everyone else around you is like, hey, man, brush your teeth. What are you doing? And I was like, I was silly, but I was like, that's a really great analogy, because it's true. You don't smell your own stink. Everybody else is telling you, and you're like, what are you talking about? Everything's good here.
Yeah, when you're in the thick of it, you don't see it.
No, not at all. Yeah.
I'm speaking with Mike with Warriors Heart, Virginia. Now, let's talk about this a little bit, because I want to talk about where you're located. So, why Caroline County? Like, what drew you here? I know you're originally from Texas. We were talking about that outside of this. So, what drew this program here?
Yeah, that's it's a funny story. So, this relationship began probably 3 years ago with Governor Northup, the administration that was in place before. Tom Krabs specifically, he is the liaison to veterans for the governor's office. I might be messing up his job title, but
we get the idea.
Tom called Warriors Heart and Bandera, and really began this relationship. Talked about the veteran population here in Virginia, between Hampton Roads and Norfolk and up and down the East Coast, and really wanted to do something to bring some type of healing to the eastern side of the country. And so that relationship began. Warrior's Heart began looking for properties, that were appropriate for a facility that we describe as resort-like.
Okay.
And so they went on the hunt. Lisa Lannon, our co-founder, is a real estate, guru and knows her way, and found this property. How she did, I have no idea. They came and visited and saw the place and went, "This is it. This is what we need. Was meant for us."
Oh, wow.
And it happened to be in Milford and Sparta, which we're still trying to figure out where Milford is. But if you drew a line between Fredericksburg, Richmond,
yes,
we're kind of right in the middle.
Okay.
West of Tappahannock, beautiful 520-acre ranch, that features a 25-acre lake and just trees, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and we're so lucky to have our hands on it because it's perfect for us. Yeah.
And we were talking, you talked about it for a second. I want to touch on it again. In the Texas location, you do have that canine program.
We do.
You're talking about bringing it to Virginia. So what does that look like?
Yeah, what it looks like is getting the staff in place. We do have the infrastructure there on site.
Okay.
So now it's just a matter of, budgeting, staffing, and then doing it at the right time. There are, considerations, licensing. There's a lot of things that we have to. It's so funny. When I was on the outside of this business, I thought, oh, well, you just do it, right? And now I'm on the inside running the place, and I'm like, wait a second, it's not so easy.
Yeah.
But it is part of our 2024 plan. As a matter of fact, I'm drafting up a proposal right now to kind of start getting that ball rolling.
Awesome.
Because it's something that our folks ask us, like, hey, canine, we want the dogs. And we understand, we love dogs, and we know the healing power of our canine friends. So we are working on that right now. I do believe, because of stuff we have in place, it's not going to be a super massive project. It's a project.
Okay.
And so one step at a time. It's one of my first quarter goals. If Josh Lannon's listening to this, it's one of my first quarter goals is
he's working on it already. I see him doing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
gosh,
it will, and then we get a kennel master identified. They'd come out, develop relationships with all the shelters and rescues in the Caroline County area, and then that's where we would get our dogs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So local.
Yeah,
that.
they'd go vet the dog, find the appropriate canine, and then bring them into the program. And then they would be trained. They would bond with the warriors. Some of our warriors come to the program and they don't necessarily want a dog, but maybe they want to help train the dog. Some will bond with the dog, and if they're vetted by the Warriors Heart staff and deemed appropriate, then they will have an opportunity to go home with a fully trained emotional support animal. So these are not just pets. These are trained. These will be trained dogs that will provide a service to this warrior.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And I just saw the numbers this past week in our annual. I think we've rehomed, I think it's over 400 dogs at our Bandera program. Yeah,
that's amazing.
They're doing amazing things over there, and we hope to duplicate that here in Virginia.
You're kind of hitting two birds with one stone here, being able to help not only the shelters and that population, because they're overrun with a lot of these dogs and animals.
Oh yeah.
But then also helping, of course, the Warriors Heart Foundation.
Yeah, they like to say, both sides of the leash.
I like that.
The dog is getting something. The human on the other side is getting something. It is truly, it's a partnership. Yeah,
I love that. Well, Mike, I know another big question. Of course, people are saying, why didn't you ask this sooner? But I'm going to ask now.
Sure.
How do warriors pay for this? Do they need to pay?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that, because it's something that a lot of people ask us. We are a for-profit facility.
Okay.
We also do private pay. We are not a nonprofit. I want to make that clear, because nonprofit and for-profit are kind of two opposite ends of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. What we tell our warriors is, you earn the benefit. Let's tap into the benefits. Mm-hmm. And if we have folks that are uninsured, underinsured, that don't have the means, we will find the means. We have partnerships with a number of nonprofits like the Warrior's Heart. The Frontline Healing Foundation. We have Avalon Network, Gary Sinise, Green Beret Foundation, Boot Campaign. There's hundreds of foundations out there that are doing the work of raising the money to ensure that this population can get the healing that they need. So our promise to our warriors is you will never get a surprise bill from us for your treatment. We will find a way, and we will work on the admissions end to find the funding for the programming.
See, and I love hearing that as well, because that's the last thing you want to have to worry about is, can I even afford to get the treatment?
Oh my
that
gosh.
You need?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the last thing we want, is for someone to say, well, I'd really like to be here, but I can't afford it. We would never say, well, too bad. Like we're gonna exhaust all available options. And there are so many people out there. That is another thing I've seen working now on the inside of this industry, is there are so many people who want to help and who want to do something and who want to put money in and who want to make sure that our veterans and first responders have an opportunity to receive the healing they deserve.
And what about transportation as well?
Yeah, we have a transportation services available.
Okay.
We're not going to drive to New York and pick someone up.
Darn it.
Yeah, I know. But within reason is what I like to say when we work with our warriors, because so far I've had 34 warriors on site. They have come from as far as Utah, Colorado. What we do ask is get to Richmond Airport, or at least somewhere in the area, and we will staff it with our driver. I want to give a shout out to David Tuning, our driver. The guy is just amazing, and what I love about our driver in particular, he's the right guy to be the first face of Warrior's Heart that the warrior sees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat, but if it's within reason, hour and a half, we'll make those. It's kind of like warrior to warrior.
Right.
If we have kind of an unusual circumstance, and we'll see how we can work around it.
I love that, because you're trying to hit every facet.
Yeah.
And every question that somebody may have, or every need.
Oh, yeah.
You've thought it through.
Yeah.
You all have thought it through.
Yeah, our Bandera program, I always laugh. I'm good friends with the executive director over there, Christina Moreno, and she's my peer, so I call her on the daily. We're having communications about the questions that come up, and I go, well, I don't know. And almost always it's preceded with, oh, yeah, we saw that at Bandera. So they've already worked it out.
Oh, wow.
At the Bandera campus. So I'm glad that they've worked out the kinks. And so now they have the answer for me.
Yeah. You're like, I don't have to worry about that. I'll just give you the answer.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm speaking with Mike with Warrior's Heart. Now, can you share a couple of the success stories or testimonials with us?
Yeah. Oof. We've had
I feel like I'm about to get emotional here.
Yeah. We've had several. We've been open since 9/11. We got client 2301, 912. There's one that sticks out in particular. This man came to us, and he was so burdened with moral injury. He was so burdened with guilt and shame. You couldn't talk to this guy for 20 seconds without him breaking down and crying. And the staff did what they do, and they insulated, and they loved, and they worked. And something that we also do at our campuses, we take our men and women off site for church if they want that as an option, to Salem Baptist. And this man started going to church. We are at our core 12-step program, so we do believe in higher power. We do believe in spirituality as a means to find healing. And this man started going to church. And one day, I was there. He walked to the front of the church, hands and knees, crying in the front of the church, in front of the entire place. Other warriors went and embraced him, and they hugged it out in the front of the church. And right there, this man says that he found God, and God found him. And it was like a light came on for him. He was baptized in the lake behind our campus because our pastor duty at Salem Baptist, he will meet people where they're at for them to find hope and healing through Christ. And this guy got baptized, and then he kicked it up a notch. He asked, "Can I share my testimonial in front of the entire congregation?" And, we all looked at each other like, well, I don't know, can he? And the consensus was, yeah, absolutely. Speak your truth and speak your power. Shout it from the rooftops. And that's what he did. And this man left our program, is thriving, is healing his marriage, his relationship with his little girl. He left with a smile on his face. He left no longer crying. He left more whole. And that was one that stood out, because I remember meeting him and going, oh my gosh, we got a lot of work to do.
Right.
And because it's not just about one person doing the work, it's our higher power, it's the community. I believe he was healed, and he was our second client. He was client 2302. Wow. Yeah. And he left a new man, and I know he's still living, healthy, sober, confident, because he's reached out to us, sent letters and correspondences letting us know he's doing well. So
you just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, it was a blessing.
I'm about to cry. We got to wrap this up at this point.
Yeah.
I will say it's such a strong story. Now, is there anything else before we do wrap this up what's the message you would like to convey to veterans, active duty military personnel, first responders who are seeking that help? Yeah.
The message that I want to convey, that I always want to convey, is your mission isn't over. You have so much more to do. And what I love to tell our veterans, our active duty military, our first responders, active, former, retired, you are so much more than the crest on your chest, the badge, the patch on your shoulder. Remember that we're, mothers, fathers, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, friends, peers. Our identity goes so far beyond the uniform that we wear.
Yes.
But it happens, you get into these professions and it becomes who you are, your defining characteristic. I know I was that guy, put on the uniform, and I was a different person. Then some days I miss that, I miss who I was, and I miss being a police officer. And, but I'm a follower, a believer first. I'm a husband. I'm a father. In that succession, and then everything else is behind that. But my mission, my message is, your mission isn't over. Somebody who's struggling, please be a support. It could be as simple as, are you okay? How can I support you today? Yep. Pick up the phone, give them our website, www.warriorsheart.com.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for all the information you shared today.
Sure.
And give that website one more time for anyone who needs to get in contact. And that'll do it for In the Community this week. If you are a nonprofit and need to bring attention to your cause or organization, please reach out through this station's website, and we will see you next week.